Chapter 378. Gu Mengmeng jumped up and hooked her arms around Li's neck. She covered his mouth and laughed awkwardly. Leader Cole, since you still have things to do, we shall not waste your time. Please go ahead, please go ahead. With that, without waiting for Cole's reply, she carried Li's head back to the stone house. After sneaking a few glances to make sure that Cole had left, Gu Mengmeng then released Li's neck and glared angrily. Are you done? Must you announce to the world that you are my beast pet so that no female would want you in the future? Are you happy? Let me tell you, if you want to use this method to make me feel guilty, then let me tell you, you are thinking too much. It is your choice to not take your own life seriously. I will not be responsible for your choice, do you hear me? Leo was as obedient as a primary school student. He stared at the angry Gu Mengmeng with deep affection and smiled blissfully. Hey! I am talking to you, why are you smiling? Gu Mengmeng looked at Li's joyful look and was even more furious. Leo looked at Elvis and asked, so this is how it feels to be reprimanded by Gu Mengmeng. No wonder you always make mistakes in front of her and make her shout. The veins on Gu Mengmeng's forehead instantly bulged and she placed her hands on her waist. Am I praising you? Leah took a step forward and bent down slightly, sending his ear to Gu Mengmeng. His eyes curved into a bridge and he said in an expectant tone, do you want to pinch my ear? It looks quite painful, but I still want to experience it. Gu Mengmeng was so angry that she did not know how to get angry. She blinked her eyes at Leah and asked, are you a damn masochist? Do you have masochistic tendencies? Leah thought about it seriously, then nodded his head and said, only towards you. I like it when you are angry at me. Because when you are angry, that pair of beautiful eyes will focus on me. Although it is a little scary when you look like you can shoot fire from your eyes, but the danger is very beautiful and makes one addicted. As Leah said that, he gently caressed Gu Mengmeng's cheeks. That pair of narrow and affectionate eyes clearly reflected Gu Mengmeng's slightly sympathetic expression as if she was looking at an idiot. However, Li's lips curved upwards and he took a deep breath, enjoying the fragrance that permeated the air that belonged to her. After reminiscing for a while, he then continued, if you will also pull my ears and scold me, if you will also throw potatoes, sweet potatoes, and salted fish at me, if you will also set 3 rules with me, ordering me not to use you as a bet, not to say that it doesn't matter whether you like me or not to abandon you, that will be even more blissful. Leah leaned closer to Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng could even clearly feel the temperature of Li's breath and his unique scent. Li's gaze was filled with pleading, with a tinge of resentment and anticipation. He asked softly, hey, satisfy me too, alright? Satisfy what? Gu Mengmeng took a step back and lost her balance, almost falling. Leah quickly grabbed onto Gu Mengmeng's waist and pulled her inwards. Gu Mengmeng's abdomen was pressed tightly against Li's abdomen. This position caused Gu Mengmeng's feet to be unable to land on the ground. After kicking twice, it made her look even more comical. Gu Mengmeng pouted and shouted at Elvis, hubby, he is already teasing me like this, aren't you going to have any reaction at all? Aside from the topic, today's 9 chapters are over babies, continue tomorrow. Yeah, I know, it's not satisfying enough. I will try to save more manuscripts and wait for the editor to inform me when I want to add more chapters, alright? Be obedient and hand over all your tickets. It was said that only works with good rankings would have the right to be recommended. With recommendations, there would be more chapters. So, do you guys understand now? Huh? Where are the tickets? Chapter 379. Elvis thought about it and walked forward. He hugged Gu Mengmeng into his arms with one hand and twisted Li's ear with the other. Then, he said expressionlessly, since Xiao Meng isn't willing, then I'll satisfy you. It's about this strength. Are you happy now? Leah slapped Elvis's hand away and turned around, saying, you can't make me feel happy and satisfied, I'm not interested in males, pfft. Ha 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 ha. Gu Mengmeng laughed like an idiot and trembled in Elvis's arms. When she finally stopped laughing, Leia came in with breakfast for her. Ian caught some fish at the river before the sky brightened. Leah removed the fish bones and boiled it with sweet potatoes to make a porridge-like paste. He mixed some honey into it before bringing it to Gu Mengmeng. He scooped a little with a small spoon and blew on it to warm it. Then, he brought it to Gu Mengmeng's mouth, saying, "Ah." Gu Mengmeng reached out to take the bowl and said, no need, I can do it myself. I'm in good shape, I'm not a vegetable." But Leah dodged and looked at Gu Mengmeng sadly, saying, "You promised me in the past to treat yourself as a severely handicapped person who can't take care of himself and let me take care of you in everything." Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue and said, "Let's not talk about the past, we can still be friends." Leah swayed his tail happily and said, "This is what you said, let's not talk about the past, we can all start afresh." Gu Mengmeng said, "Hey, don't change my original words. I said, we can still be friends, who said anything about starting afresh?" Leah said, "Didn't we start as friends in the past? If we can still be friends, doesn't that mean we can start afresh?" Gu Mengmeng said, "Everything that happened before this year's spring is called the past, just let it go with the wind and neither of us will mention it again, okay?" Leah mumbled something but Gu Mengmeng did not hear it clearly. It was just some grumbling and Gu Mengmeng did not pursue it further. She just asked in an emphatic tone, "Okay?" Leah nodded and said with some grievance, "If we don't mention the past, can we talk about the new things?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and made a please gesture. Leah pointed at Elvis and said, "Elvis humiliated me just now, he touched my ears. If this gets out, I won't be able to be a fox anymore." Sob, as the head of the family, shouldn't you comfort my wounded heart? Gu Mengmeng really wanted to maintain a stern image, but she could not hold it in. She doubled over in laughter on the bed, slapping her thighs while saying, "I knew there was something going on between you two, ha ha ha." Elvis's face darkened as he carried Gu Mengmeng, who was crying from laughing so hard. He tilted her little chin and forced her to look at him. He clenched his teeth and said, "Other than you, I have never slept with anyone else." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis's darkened face and tried to hold back her laughter. But the more she tried, the more she wanted to laugh. In the end, she could only tremble until it was vibrating. Elvis sighed. He could not do anything to Gu Mengmeng and could only turn to look at Leah. "Can you stop saying things that will cause Xiao Meng to misunderstand? It was not easy for me to prove that we are innocent, but if you say the same thing, she will." Leah did not buy it. He placed the cold porridge in the spoon into his mouth and tasted it. The taste was not bad, it should be the type that Gu Mengmeng liked. Then, he scooped another spoonful of porridge and blew on it before answering Elvis, "Are we innocent? Aside from the topic." Chapter 380. Gu Mengmeng instantly stopped smiling. Like a frightened rabbit, she straightened her back and looked back and forth between Elvis and Leah with her big round eyes. After a while, she pointed at Elvis and roared, "If you don't give me a clear explanation today, I won't let you off." Elvis was stunned. Elvis opened his arms and caught Gu Mengmeng, who was pouncing towards him, steadily. He let her mess around in his arms and smiled dotingly. Occasionally, he would look up at Leah, who was jealous that day. Only when Gu Mengmeng was tired of messing around did he stroke her hair and said, "When Leah and I founded Saint Nazaire, our territories were all snatched from other tribes. There were fair duels and there were times when we used underhanded methods. So, we really can't be considered innocent. But it is definitely not what you think." Elvis supported Gu Mengmeng's little butt with one hand and lifted her chin with the other. With a slight sense of punishment, he kissed Gu Mengmeng's delicate lips and only released her when her face turned red. He said, "This is the last time I am going to explain this. If you dare to let your imagination run wild in the future, I will punish you by making you unable to get off the bed for 3 days. You will have to personally experience who I am having an affair with." Sob, her partner's husbandly power suddenly exploded. Just thinking about it made her a little excited. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's neck timidly and replied coquettishly, Yeah, hubby, I won't think anymore. My hubby is so handsome, he's practically a walking hormone. How can he be gay? Straighter than steel bars. Elvis also did not know what she was talking about, but seeing her obedient and adorable look, he enjoyed it. So he sighed and put her on the bed without his black face. He took the porridge bowl from Lee's hands and said, "The temperature of the porridge is just right. I will feed you." "No need, no need. How can I let hubby handle such a small matter? I can do it myself, I can do it myself." Gu Meng Meng reached out to take the porridge bowl. But Elvis sent a spoonful of porridge directly into his mouth and then passed it into Gu Meng Meng's mouth with his lips. "I've said it before, I already have the qualifications to take care of you. You can't refuse me." Elvis's eyelids drooped slightly, hiding most of the blue glow in his eyes, but turning his tenderness into water, flowing into Gu Meng Meng's ears. "If you're not used to me feeding you with a spoon, then, let's change to another method that I prefer, how about that?" Blushing, Gu Meng Meng leaned into Elvis's arms obediently and said, "Let's just use a spoon, it's better, it's more efficient." Elvis patted Gu Meng Meng's little head and kissed her hair. Then, he started to feed spoonfuls of fish and sweet potato porridge into Gu Meng Meng's mouth. Gu Meng Meng was eating and did not have the time to speak, so Elvis spoke on her behalf. "Leah, what is the ritual that Cole mentioned just now? You specifically stayed behind to tell Xiao Meng about this, right?" Leah nodded. He really wanted to use proper business to distract himself, but he could not hide the envy in his eyes. Chapter 381. Why? Gu Meng Meng swallowed a mouthful of porridge and asked. "Leah, because the previous messenger of the beast deity said that the real messenger of the beast deity would definitely know the contents of the esoterica." With that, Leah looked at Gu Meng Meng attentively, as if waiting for her to say what was written in the esoterica. Gu Meng Meng was dumbfounded, she really did not know what the esoterica was. 9-in Manual, or Buddha's Palm. Damn, she was not mentally prepared at all when she transmigrated. She swam here and did not meet the legendary almighty beast deity at all. No one had ever told her that there was such a thing as an esoterica. Gu Meng Meng complimented him and asked, "If I can't answer, will I be treated as a witch and burned to death?" Leah and Elvis looked at each other and smiled. Females who can't answer will be treated as looking down on the beast deity and will be punished. But Elvis and I will protect you, no one can hurt you. Gu Meng Meng held her forehead with one hand and said helplessly, "Say, if we decide to escape now, isn't it too late?" As they were talking, Cole's voice sounded from the door again. "Don't worry, just because you can summon the flame demon, solder will not make things difficult for you." Gu Meng Meng was stunned and glared at Elvis and Leah. What was wrong with these two? Why didn't they remind her that someone was eavesdropping? Clearing her throat awkwardly, Gu Meng Meng said, "No. I'm not worried." Cole seemed to chuckle and said, "The ceremony is ready, can we go over now?" Gu Meng Meng grabbed onto Elvis's hand nervously. Elvis held onto her little hand and pulled her into his arms, hugging her firmly. Leah, on the other hand, followed behind Elvis and walked out of the stone house. Cole gave a simple bow to Gu Meng Meng. It was not much respect, but just basic courtesy. This made Gu Meng Meng feel very comfortable. If it was too grand, she would feel awkward. Under Cole's lead, the group arrived at a place similar to the platform of the deity's punishment in Saint Nazir. The surroundings were completely surrounded and there was only a path wide enough for one person to pass through. Cole was the first to step onto the platform. He then gestured for Gu Meng Meng to come up. Just as Elvis was about to carry Gu Meng Meng up, Leah pulled him back. Only the tribe leader and the messenger of the beast deity can enter this place. If anyone else steps in, they will be treated as disrespecting the beast deity. Elvis raised his eyebrows, as if he didn't care. Leah said, "You will only make things difficult for Meng Meng if you insist on going up. Trust her. She'll be fine. If there really is something, you and I are right here, it's just a step away." Elvis looked at Gu Meng Meng again and she gave him a, "It's all right," smile before jumping down from Elvis's arms and walking towards the platform of the deity's punishment. There was a book enshrined on the platform of the deity's punishment. Due to the passage of time, it was severely damaged. The paper was yellowish and brittle, as if it could not even withstand a gust of wind. However, Why does the cover of that book look so familiar? Where have I seen it before, peasant? Cole opened his mouth. His voice was sonorous and forceful, as though he was reciting some sacrificial rites. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She looked at Cole, not understanding why he was suddenly spouting nonsense. Peasant. Cole repeated again, before staring at Gu Mengmeng fixedly. Chapter 382. Cole was shocked at first, then he could not control the expression on his face. He took a big step forward towards Gu Mengmeng and said, "Geese geese geese." Gu Mengmeng smiled stiffly and thought to herself, "Brother, can you restrain the smile on your face? Why does reciting a poem from the Tang dynasty seem to have hit your high spot? What are you so excited about?" Seeing that Gu Mengmeng did not reply, Cole got a little anxious and took another step forward, repeating, "Geese geese geese. Singing to the sky with my crooked neck, white hair floating on the green water, red palms stirring the clear waves." Gu Mengmeng simply memorized the entire poem. Seeing that Cole was about to speak again, Gu Mengmeng gestured for him to stop and said, "Don't ask any more. I learned how to read at 3, learned how to write at 5, familiarized myself with 300 poems from the Tang dynasty at 7, and could recite a chapter from my mouth at 9. If you don't believe me, I will compose a poem for you." Gu Mengmeng placed her hands behind her back and shook her head, saying, "I will remove the general's battle robe, and the hibiscus warms the spring night in the tent. The 6 palaces are colorless, and from then on, the king does not attend morning court." With that, Gu Mengmeng turned around and looked at Cole with a sneaky smile, saying, "Leader Cole, what do you think of my poem?" With a plop, Cole knelt down on both his knees and got into a position of worship, shouting loudly, "Leader Cole of the Messenger's tribe, welcome back the messenger of the beast deity." Once Cole knelt down, no one else dared to stand. The entire scene was rather spectacular. Even Leah and Elvis followed the crowd and knelt down at Gu Mengmeng's feet, groveling in submission. The corners of Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched and she smiled awkwardly. She took 2 steps forward and picked up the esoteric book that only the tribe leader could read. Damn, it was indeed 300 poems from the Tang dynasty. Gu Mengmeng felt as though 10,000 divine beasts were galloping across her heart. Was the previous messenger of the beast deity a joker? Using this 300 poems from the Tang dynasty to fool the Sauter tribe for 1,000 years, a book that cost $9 and was worshipped for 1,000 years, and only the tribe leader could pass it down from father to son, then from son to grandson? Gu Mengmeng really started to suspect if Leah was being serious when he said that the Snow Fox tribesmen were extremely intelligent and scheming. Turning back to look at Leah and Elvis, Gu Mengmeng realized that everyone was still kneeling, so she hurriedly waved her hands and said, "Get up, everyone." Yes. Cole supported himself with one hand on the ground and slowly stood up. He moved closer to Gu Mengmeng and said respectfully, "I came late to welcome you and caused the great messenger to be stranded outside. Please punish me." Gu Mengmeng's eyes drifted towards Leah, thinking to herself, they were indeed from the same factory, they all had masochistic tendencies, asking her to punish them the moment they met? Should he wave a leather whip or drip wax? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Subordinate? Leader Cole must be joking. I'm just a little female in Saint Nazaire. How would I dare to order you to be my subordinate? Cole wanted to say more, but Gu Mengmeng interrupted him and continued, Is the ceremony over? You don't have to burn me, do you? Can I go now? My maid is still waiting for me there. Great messenger. Cole took a step forward and stood in front of Gu Mengmeng. He lowered his head respectfully and said, "Since the great messenger has returned, you should naturally stay in Sauter. This is your tribe. As for your partner, he can stay with you." Gu Mengmeng raised her brow. "What if I don't agree? Are you going to force me to stay?" Cole lowered his head and said, "I don't dare to." But even though he said that, his body was like a towering ancient tree, not moving an inch. Aside from the topic, about this esoteric book. Chapter 383. Gu Mengmeng smiled and patted Cole's shoulder lightly. "It's best if you don't dare to. After all, if you anger me, it won't do you any good." With that, she walked past Cole and walked down the platform. Elvis caught Gu Mengmeng steadily and carried her in his arms. He turned around and left, not caring about what was happening behind him. Leah did not say anything and just followed behind Gu Mengmeng quietly. The group returned to the small stone house that Gu Mengmeng stayed in previously. After entering the house, Leah asked, "That esoteric manual, you don't want it?" Gu Mengmeng smiled. "Are you interested in that esoteric manual?" Leah nodded his head honestly and Gu Mengmeng replied with an understood expression. Then, she said, "I'm lying when I said that I can recite all 300 Tang poems, but it's a given that I can recite the more familiar ones. Coincidentally, I know both poems that Leader Cole tested me on today." I stopped him from asking because I was afraid that he would ask something unpopular and I would not be able to memorize it, but if you are interested, I can teach you when I teach Hada and his brothers. Gu Mengmeng sat on the bed. The more she thought about it, the funnier she felt. She waved at Elvis and Leah. "I finally know why the previous messenger of the beast deity said the real messenger of the beast deity would definitely know the contents of the esoteric manual. Damn it, at my place, all the children who graduated from kindergarten can memorize these Tang poems. No matter how bad their studies are, they would definitely be able to memorize these few poems. So, I now believe that you guys said that I am the messenger of the beast deity." Leah and Elvis looked at each other and exchanged glances. Leah asked, "Then what do you plan to do next?" Gu Mengmeng shrugged. "I'll first participate in the beauty pageant and bring the person I like back to Saint Nazir." Leah frowned. "You directly said that you don't want to stay in solder today. I'm afraid that Cole will not let you off so easily." Gu Mengmeng thought about it and replied, "I think he is quite a gentleman. He doesn't look like he would do anything scary." But Leah gave a bitter smile. "Have you forgotten? The Snow Fox tribe is the best at reading people's minds. This level of disguise is nothing to him." Gu Mengmeng thought about it again. He would dedicate a book of 300 poems of the Tang dynasty for 1,000 years. Gu Mengmeng smiled and patted Li's shoulder. "Don't worry too much. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. My identity was announced in public today and the whole world's eyes are probably on Solder now. If I were to make any mistake in Solder, his life would be worse than anyone else's. Therefore, he probably wouldn't dare to use force. Even if we take 10,000 steps back and say that he really has evil intentions and wants to play dirty with us, what if I am in a bad mood and accidentally burn down his solder? What should I do then?" Seeing Gu Mengmeng's cheerful look, Leah did not say anything else. Some things should be shouldered by males. It would be best for her to be happy and carefree like this forever. The date of the beauty pageant was 3 days after Gu Mengmeng's identity was exposed. In these 3 days, the 3-word Saint Nazir became the hottest topic on the streets. Actually, there was not much meaning in this competition anymore because not only the males, even the females who came to participate in the competition expressed their intention to join them. In other words, as long as Gu Mengmeng nodded, everyone in Solder could be brought back to Saint Nazir in one fell swoop. Beauty pageant, was there still a need to choose? Aside from the topic, Gu Mengmeng, hoeing the fields at noon. Steamed bun *4, ow 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 Leah, I want to be the peasant, you be the noon. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes at Leah and changed to another Tang dynasty poem. The sun shines on the mountain in the daytime, the yellow river flows into the sea. Steamed bun *4, ow 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 Leah, I want to be the yellow river, you be the sea. Gu Mengmeng slammed the table and changed to another one. 2 orioles chirping in the green willow, a row of egrets soaring into the blue sky. Steamed bun did not say anything and just turned to look at Leah. Leah smiled and said, "Change it, a white fox soaring into the blue sky, how about that? You be the blue sky." Gu Mengmeng's face darkened and she changed to another one. The winding path leads to a secluded place. The meditation room is full of flowers and trees. Leah simply stood up and hugged Gu Mengmeng's waist, saying, "I am the winding path, through." Huh? How about that? Gu Mengmeng flipped the table and said angrily, "Can you still learn Tang dynasty poems happily? You have worshipped the esoterica for thousands of years, where is your piety? Where is the respect you promised?" Chapter 384. A beauty pageant had successfully turned into a recruitment fair for Saint Nazir because of Gu Mengmeng's exposure. The first news was personally announced by Gu Mengmeng. This time, she was only releasing 50 slots. That meant that everyone who wanted to join Saint Nazir had to fight for the slot. Only those who successfully obtained the slot would have the right to join Saint Nazir. This was different from the past when the strongest chose the tribe. The primary and secondary relationship had been reversed and the tribe chose the strongest. Elvis and Leah did not quite understand Gu Mengmeng's decision. Wasn't it better to have more strong males? Why did she only accept 50? However, Gu Mengmeng smiled. Quality, quality. Quality comes before quantity. Only when there is a qualitative change can there be a qualitative change. If you are not good at it, what's the use of having more? Elvis completely could not understand the difference between qualitative and quantitative changes. He could only nod. Whatever you say. I'll listen to you. The tribe leader and first partner did not have any objections. Leah, the witch doctor and beast pet that could not be recognized, naturally did not have any room to raise any objections. Hence, the matter of the slots was decided. The first question that Gu Mengmeng gave was a day's hunt starting from sunrise and ending at sunset. The top 10 with the most prey would obtain the slots to join. Hence, on the first day, almost all the males in the city came out of their nests. Even the males who originally accompanied the females to participate in the beauty pageant had actively participated in it. In the past, only the beautiful females would join a tribe and the males would follow. This was the first time a female wanted to join a tribe. Her own males had to have the ability to obtain a slot before she could join as a family member. Joining the messenger's tribe meant that they would be able to live a better life. Females naturally encouraged males to fight for it. Especially when they heard that only the top 10 could obtain a slot. Hence, they were even more determined. Competition was a woman's nature. Be it in the present or ancient times, ordinary people or orcs, it was the same. Hence, the males risked their lives to hunt for prey outside while the females dressed themselves up beautifully. If there was no partner in the top 10, then they would just choose one on the spot. They were all the first beauties of their respective tribes. They had blind confidence in this aspect and believed that as long as they beckoned, no males would reject them. Compared to those who stretched their necks to wait for the results, the atmosphere at Gu Mengmeng's side was much stranger. That. Leader Cole, is it really okay for you to do this? Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole, who had moved a small table and placed it outside her stone house. He then sat cross-legged in the corner of the wall, holding a yellowed 300 poems of the Tang dynasty, and looked up at Gu Mengmeng. She was really speechless. What happened to the promised high-end, elegant, black-bellied, tsundra, and profound? Could it be that the Snow Fox family's greatest weapon of destruction was this look of innocence in the eyes of an abandoned pet dog? If Lady Emissary doesn't want to stay, I don't dare to force you. However, as Lady Emissary's follower, no matter where Lady Emissary goes, I will follow. Cole nodded his head seriously and handed over the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty with both hands. This is the esoterica left behind by the previous great messenger. He had instructed us to let the new great messenger take a look. Chapter 385. Cole insisted. He raised his hands above his head and said, "Please take a look." Gu Mengmeng did not know what to do with Cole and could only accept that esoterica. "All right, I will accept the book. Can you go back now?" Cole shook his head and said, "I want to stay and serve the great messenger." Gu Mengmeng's face was really stiff. She thought to herself, if you want to serve me, then so be it. Can you not look at me with that ambiguous and wronged expression? You make it sound like I did something to you. Gu Mengmeng sighed and turned to enter the house. She pounced into Elvis's arms and said, "Hubby, there's an idiot at the door." Elvis was also helpless as he said, "I've beaten him up so many times that his leg was crippled by me. He actually came back with 3 legs. After all, he's Sauter's leader and we're in his territory. It wouldn't be good if we really killed him." Gu Mengmeng sighed. "That's right, Leah said, show me your ability to ignore me. Just ignore him and that will do. Gu Mengmeng glared at Leah and said, is your family heirloom about acting cute and pitiful? You did the same thing last time. The smile on Lee's face froze for a moment. He turned around and said coldly, he is not my family. With that, Leah walked out of the stone house and dragged Cole, who was sitting at the door, away. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and looked up at Elvis, asking, hubby, did I say something wrong? Elvis stroked Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, it's all right, Leah won't blame you. Sob sob sob, I really said the wrong thing. Elvis felt helpless. Many a time, he was really envious of Lee's ability to make Gu Mengmeng happy. He always knew what he said at the right time to have the right effect. As for himself, he could never learn it. Feeling bored, she flipped open the 300 Poems of the Tang Dynasty. To be honest, if this book was stored in the modern era, it would probably be stored in a vacuum in a museum. But the content was really a Tang Dynasty poem, the kind that could be found on Amazon's special series of 9.90 renminbi. It was the first time in Gu Mengmeng's life that she was looking at Tang Shi so cautiously. But as she watched, Gu Mengmeng discovered something different. She seemed to understand why the previous messenger of the beast deity wanted Sauter's people to pass this book to the new messenger of the beast deity. There were words on the book, which looked like the marks of a ballpoint pen. Gu Mengmeng sighed silently in her heart. Why did other people bring at least 300 poems of the Tang Dynasty and a ballpoint pen when they transmigrated, while she only brought a bikini? Too much time had passed and many of the words could not be read clearly. In addition, the book was damaged and the message left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity could not be read completely. Gu Mengmeng could only piece together a few pieces of information. The previous messenger of the beast deity was an honorary consultant of the Book of Changes Association. This kind of person had been seen many times on television. To put it bluntly, he was just a charlatan who spent money to buy a title that sounded rather intimidating and then told people's fortunes. No wonder he insisted on calling fire the flame devil. He's a person who relies on superstition for a living. Gu Mengmeng muttered softly. Elvis also took a glance at the book. He could not see anything. The entire page was filled with scribbles. Gu Mengmeng wanted to read more of the content carefully, but it was very difficult to piece together other useful information. The word that appeared the most was dream. Aside from the topic, the author's imagination was opened. It had nothing to do with the plot. My babies just have to watch and be happy. 1,000 years later, the next messenger of the beast deity entered the beast world and came to Saint Nazir to investigate the secret of the previous legendary Gu Mengmeng. He obtained a magical artifact that Saint Nazir worshipped for 1,000 years, a set of 36D bikini. Chapter 386. Gu Mengmeng was a little confused. Dream? What does that mean? That everything she was experiencing right now was a dream? Wake up and find that it was all fake? Gu Mengmeng hesitated for a moment before looking up at Elvis. Then, she stretched out her evil little hand and pinched Elvis's ear hard. Elvis gasped in pain but did not dare to resist. He could only look at Gu Mengmeng innocently and said without hesitation, Xiao Meng, I was wrong. Gu Mengmeng let go and smiled awkwardly. It was a conditioned reflex for her to admit her mistake after twisting his ear. Rubbing Elvis's ears, she said, yeah, it's not your fault this time. I just wanted to try. Do you feel pain? Elvis thought about it seriously and shook his head. Actually, it's not very painful. Gu Mengmeng thought, if it was not very painful, could it be that she was really in a dream? After hesitating for a moment, Gu Mengmeng pinched her thigh harshly. Motherf asterisk cur. Gu Mengmeng was in so much pain that her tears fell instantly. Looking at the purple beads on her thighs, Gu Mengmeng really wanted to curse the ancestors of the previous messenger of the beast deity. Lil, Miss doesn't believe you. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her thighs while scolding with tears in her eyes. So damn wicked, it hurts so much. Elvis sighed and slapped away her hands that were rubbing his thighs. Then, he used his warm palms to rub the bruise on her thighs. He rubbed it rhythmically with moderate strength and said, you pinched yourself like this the first time I saw you, and you did it again today. Do you have to pinch your thighs repeatedly? Gu Mengmeng tilted her head. Could she pretend to be a retard? She had already forgotten that he had pinched her a long time ago. Why did Elvis remember it so clearly? That. I actually just want to make sure that everything that I'm experiencing right now is not a dream. People say that it doesn't hurt when you're dreaming. If it hurts, does that mean I'm not dreaming? Elvis turned his head and asked seriously. Gu Mengmeng nodded in reply. Elvis thought for a moment, then placed her on the bed and started to remove his beastskin dress. Hey! What are you doing? It's broad daylight, isn't it inappropriate? This scene is too erotic. Hey, don't take it off, don't take it off. The door isn't closed. Gu Mengmeng stopped Elvis incoherently. Elvis held on to his half-removed beastskin dress and looked at Gu Mengmeng with a serious face. There are many ways to feel pain. Compared to pinching your own thighs, I think another method is better. Don't worry, I'll try my best to make you sure you're not dreaming. Gu Mengmeng was already drenched in cold sweat. Brother, please don't try too hard. Gu Mengmeng didn't was. Thinking of this, Gu Mengmeng felt even more like an idiot. On the night of mating, she had almost died from the pain, and now she was suspecting that everything was just a dream? Gu Mengmeng maintained her stiff smile and helped Elvis wear the beastskin dress properly. Then, she nodded her head and said, "There's no need to verify it anymore. I already deeply understand that this is not a dream." Elvis scooped Gu Mengmeng into his arms after helping him put on the beastskin dress. He hugged her tightly and whispered into her ear, "Promise me, if all this is just a dream to you, then, please kill me before you decide to wake up. Don't leave me alone to face a world without you. To me, it's a nightmare that I'll never recover from." Aside, Elvis thought, "Xiao Meng, I think you might really be dreaming. It's better for us to verify it." Gu Mengmeng was so terrified that she stepped back. "Hubby, don't be like this, really. I'm sure I'm not dreaming." Elvis pounced forward, "But I'm not sure." 10,086 words of detailed description were omitted here. Chapter 387. Silly girl. Gu Mengmeng smiled and hugged Elvis back. She patted his back lightly and said, "A world without you is just a barren land. If it's a dream, it must be a good dream that I exchanged my entire life's luck for. This is a once-in-a-lifetime luxury. If I'm really about to wake up, you must hug me tightly and make me stay. If you really can't do it, just knock me out. After all, I won't be so lucky to meet you like this again." The atmosphere was just right. She should have expressed something further. Anyway, she was not done wearing the beastskin dress, right? But, great messenger. Cole stood at the door with a snow-white fox in his hands. Gu Mengmeng instinctively pushed Elvis away, but he hugged her even tighter, not letting her escape from his arms at all. "You're the one who said it, to hug you tightly." Gu Mengmeng smiled. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and said, "You are taking my words out of context. What I'm saying is, if I'm about to wake up, you have to hug me tightly." Elvis shrugged and said, "As long as you are not in my arms, I will treat it as if you are about to wake up." Gu Mengmeng's heart was beating wildly. Even though they were an old married couple and had 4 children, Gu Mengmeng's resistance and immunity towards Elvis, who was saying such sweet nothings in a serious manner, was decreasing day by day. She punched his chest and said, "Someone is watching, it's not good." Elvis raised his brows and glanced at Cole. "You like him?" Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before shaking her head violently. "What are you saying? One Leah is enough to give me a headache, why would I go and provoke others?" Elvis nodded with a cold expression. "One fox is enough for our family." Gu Mengmeng was speechless. That was not what she meant, all right? Leah was also not her family's fox, all right? But what could she do if she could not refute him? Clenching her teeth, Gu Mengmeng sighed in resignation and was about to ask Cole what was the matter. But Elvis spoke first. "Xiao Meng doesn't like you, so it's useless even if you win against Leah. Our family's rule is that only challenges with Xiao Meng's approval count. Besides. Elvis pointed at the fox in Cole's hand and said, he is just a beast pet, not Xiao Meng's partner. If you want to challenge me, you have to find me. The word awkward was clearly written all over Gu Mengmeng's face. Cole had only treated her as a follower of the messenger of the beast deity and had never once said that he liked her. This kind of behavior of randomly pulling a stranger on the street and then scowling at him to stop coveting his wife, was he a Chinibu or a lunatic? Gu Mengmeng tugged at Elvis's arm and said, Cole doesn't like me at all, it's very awkward for you to say that. When Elvis's gaze met Gu Mengmeng's, it became extremely gentle. His brows slightly touched and his blue eyes were filled with deep affection like the vast sea of stars. In this world, there's no one who doesn't like you. Every male is a rival in love. We need to be careful. Puff, what a Chinibu theory, but my heart is beating really fast. What should I do? Was this the so-called beauty in the eye of the beholder? Oh my, she was already the world's most beautiful woman in Elvis's eyes? Her heart was blooming with joy and the corners of her lips curled up unknowingly. Gu Mengmeng tried not to look too pleased with herself. She waved her hands and said, I'm not money, how can everyone like me? Don't spout nonsense, Cole didn't mean it that way. Aside from the topic, alright, babies. Today's update has ended. Chapter 388. Cole did not say a word, but his eyes were filled with confusion and some unexplainable things. Great messenger, can I come in? Cole asked. No. Elvis replied firmly without hesitation. Cole did not insist and just nodded his head. Then, he placed the fox at the door and stroked his head as if he was stroking a pet dog. He instructed, since you have already become the great messenger's beast pet, you must serve the great messenger well and make her happy. This way, you, as the Ninth Highness, can be considered to have contributed to the Snow Fox clan. Don't throw a tantrum in the future, understand? This will put the great messenger in a difficult position. Leah kept his mouth shut and did not say a word. He just turned his head and ran into the house, pouncing to Gu Mengmeng's side and circling her with his body. Then, he rested his head on Gu Mengmeng's thigh and whimpered, as if he was acting coquettishly. Gu Mengmeng did not understand beast language and could only smile awkwardly. Cole stood at the door and bowed to Gu Mengmeng, then said, Then, Cole shall not disturb the great messenger's rest. I will guard the door and you can instruct me if you need anything. Gu Mengmeng, huh? Didn't you already give me your book? Why are you still squatting at my door? Aren't you the leader? Don't you need to settle the tribe's matters? Cole stood at his original spot and replied with a smile, since the great messenger has returned, then the tribe's matters will naturally be decided by the great messenger. There will be others who will follow the rules to settle the trivial matters. So, my most important duty is to stay by your side, protect you, and serve you. Pfft. Gu Mengmeng really could not get used to the word serve, it sounded so awkward. So she cleared her throat and asked, I am the messenger of the beast deity, so you have to listen to my words, right? Yes, great messenger. Gu Mengmeng said, then as the messenger of the beast deity, I order you to go back to where you came from. Don't block my way. This. Cole seemed to be in a difficult position. Gu Mengmeng continued, also, I've already said that Saint Nazir is my tribe and I won't stay behind, so, you should manage this Sauter tribe yourself. Don't expect me to make any decisions, I don't have that much free time. Cole hesitated for a moment and said, or should I lead the whole of Sauter to submit to Saint Nazir? Does that mean I can stay by the great emissary's side to serve you? Gu Mengmeng felt that this suggestion was quite reliable, so she looked up at Elvis and then at Leah, only to see both of them shaking their heads at her at the same time. Although the action was not visible, they had after all lived together for so long, and this level of tacit understanding was still there. So Gu Mengmeng laughed and said, how can I do that? After all, Sauter is the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. I've just arrived and I've already swallowed their territory, this is not in line with the rules of the martial world. Cole remained silent and his gaze was filled with disappointment. He stood at the door and looked at Gu Mengmeng huddled in Leah and Elvis's arms, just like an infatuated boyfriend looking at the heartless woman who had dumped him hugging two beauties. Damn it, Lil Miss was hugging her own husband now. Why the hell are you standing at the door with an expression like your Qin Xiangmian? Gu Mengmeng was roaring in her heart, but she only smiled awkwardly and said, Leader Cole, if there's nothing else, please go back first. I still have to be the judge to choose the warriors to join Saint Nazir later, so I won't entertain you. Yes. Cole replied slowly, then placed his right hand on his left chest, bowed to Gu Mengmeng and left slowly. Aside from the topic, I'm not sure if everyone noticed this. When Leah went out, he dragged Cole along, and when he returned, he was carried back by someone else, meaning, he didn't win, he was beaten back to his original state. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 389. After confirming that Cole had walked far away, Gu Mengmeng pushed Leah and said, What's wrong with you? Didn't you go out to chase him away? Why did you get carried back by someone? Leah transformed into a human, retaining a large tail and a pair of furry fox ears. He pulled a beast skin from the side of the bed to cover himself slightly because he remembered that Gu Mengmeng did not like to see males naked. After settling everything, Leah then looked at Elvis seriously and said, Cole is at least a 4th-level beast, you have to be careful. Elvis nodded and said, I also sensed it. Although he had been hiding it well and did not expose his real power, but when I released my pressure that day, all beasts below 2nd level had already fainted. You, who were at the peak of 3rd level, also felt weak in the legs and dizziness, but he remained calm as if nothing had happened. 4th level pressure, unless he is also a 4th level or higher, he would not be able to withstand it. Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and finally understood that the morning when Cole came to look for her after the crowd reported her for barbecuing in public, Elvis and Lee's pairing was not just to act cool. Snow foxes are naturally cunning and Sauter is also the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. There must be many secrets that only the tribe leader knows. Even if many of them were lost in the passage of time, even if there is only a tiny bit left, it is enough to overwhelm us. So, you have to be extra cautious when dealing with him. Gu Mengmeng patted Leah and said, You speak as if you are not from the Snow Fox tribe, cunning by nature. I think Cole is not a bad person, he is polite and modest. Look at how the two of you bullied him. If he was really cunning, he would have dragged you out and buried you. Why would he send you back? He even carried you back in a princess hug. Leah laughed coldly and did not answer Gu Mengmeng's question. He just looked at Elvis and said, Mengmeng's reaction now is the best proof. Gu Mengmeng asked, Proof of what? Leah glanced sideways and used his index finger to lift Gu Mengmeng's chin. With a face that had never been so serious before, his long and narrow eyes filled with seriousness, he said word by word, Gu Mengmeng, you can choose any male in this beast world, but as for foxes, just me alone is enough. Gu Mengmeng stared at Leah. TSK. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and wanted to retract her chin, but Leah was so stubborn that he refused to let go. He frowned and locked Gu Mengmeng's chin so that it was facing him. He looked straight into her eyes and remained silent for a long time, as if he was struggling and hesitating. Finally, he gave in and said, If you really like foxes, you can consider the Fire Fox clan and the Silver Fox clan. The males in these two clans are also extremely handsome and intelligent. If it must be a snow fox, at least it can't be Cole. Gu Mengmeng could not break free from Leah and could only look at him with a lifeless face. She asked, You and Elvis are indeed good brothers who have lived together for so many years. Damn, which eye of yours saw the words fickle and dissolute written on my face? Why does everything have to be related to mating and having a harem? I have said it 800 times, I only want Elvis as a male, I will not mate anymore. Leah frowned and instinctively lowered his head to look at his left chest. The pain was spreading. But at this moment, he was smiling. Chapter 390. At sunset, Sauter was bustling with activity. After Gu Mengmeng promised Cole again and again that she would not give him any chance to get close, Elvis and Leah finally allowed her to go out to settle some serious matters. There was an empty space near Sauter's deity platform. Cole had specially ordered people to clean it up because Gu Mengmeng wanted to hold a recruitment event. Gu Mengmeng actually felt a little apologetic. She was complaining about not wanting to be the messenger of the beast deity while enjoying their preferential treatment and service. But she had no choice. They had already cleaned up the place and she did not want to use it just to draw a clear line between them. That would make her look like she did not know what was good for her. So Gu Mengmeng decided to enjoy this 5-star service first. At most, she would leave some room fees for them when she left. With that thought, Gu Mengmeng felt at ease. The males had already placed their prey in the designated area in front of them. Most of them had 2 or 3 beasts as their prey. Occasionally, there would be a few who only had 1 prey, but it was obviously rare. But one of them was very special. The prey in front of him was piled up like a small mountain. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and asked Elvis, "Who is that person? Do you know him? Why does he have so many prey?" Elvis replied in a low voice, "Oriton, from the White Tiger tribe. He does not belong to any tribe and attends the beauty pageant every year. Many females have expressed their desire to mate with him, but strangely, he has never been attracted to any female and never expressed interest in any tribe." Nina had tried to drug him in the past but to no avail. Gu Mengmeng's gossipy spirit was ignited and she asked with stars in her eyes, "Drug? Do you still have that kind of drug here?" Elvis's gaze landed on Li's face. Gu Mengmeng followed Elvis's gaze and saw Leah turning his head away awkwardly. He said in an uneasy tone, "He is indeed a capable male. For the sake of the tribe, I naturally wish for him to join us." So you and Nina cooperated in a badger game to scheme against him?" Gu Mengmeng's face was full of disdain. Leah did not know what a badger game was, but he knew it was definitely not something good. So he frowned and said seriously, "I only gave Nina a piece of beast skin with the fox seductive fragrance on it and told her to rub it on him or herself when she gets close to Oriton to seduce him." And then? Gu Mengmeng continued asking. Leah sighed. "Isn't the result obvious? If Nina had succeeded, why would Oriton still be standing here?" Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips and said, "That's true, but luckily, such a good cabbage was not taken by that wild chicken Nina." Elvis asked coldly, "You're interested in him?" "Yes." Gu Mengmeng replied without hesitation, "Leah already said that he's a strong male and will be a very strong fighting force after joining the tribe." Elvis sneered, his gaze piercing straight at Oriton like a knife. Smiling devilishly, he moved his shoulders and said, "Looks like I have to accept my first challenge after mating." "What?" Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded by the murderous look on Elvis's face. Chapter 391. Hey, he wants to join our tribe so sincerely, why do you want to kill him?" Gu Mengmeng's face was full of fear as she held on to Elvis's arm. "Look, this world is so beautiful but you are so hot-tempered. This is not good, not good." Elvis squinted his eyes as he exuded a dangerous aura. He rubbed Gu Mengmeng's hair gently and said, "You are pleading for him? Your heart aches." Gu Mengmeng said, "Hubby, talents are hard to come by." Elvis said, "Then, where do you want to place his mark?" Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before she slapped Elvis's shoulder angrily. "What the hell are you talking about? I am talking to you about strengthening the tribe, not strengthening the harem." Elvis grabbed onto Gu Mengmeng's wrist and pulled lightly, causing her entire body to fall into his arms. After teasing her like a cat for a while, Elvis then said, "What if the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with you?" Gu Mengmeng felt helpless and thought to herself, "Who has a phone to lend me? I will go on Baidu Tieba and post a post called, 'Hubby loves me too much, what should I do?' He feels that all the males in the world have something to do with me, it's quite urgent, waiting online." Elvis saw that Gu Mengmeng did not speak and the evil fire in his heart burned even brighter. He glanced sideways at Oriton and sneered. "I think we should just kill him." Leah agreed. "Sigh, the battle power of a peak 3rd level is so similar to you in the past. What a pity, let's just kill him." Gu Mengmeng felt a chill down her spine. In the years before she came, the rapport they had developed actually included this kind of perverted teamwork to kill a suspected love rival. Sighing, Gu Mengmeng patted their shoulders. I heard that males in the beast world have extremely good hearing. Elvis nodded and did not say anything. His face was still sullen. Gu Mengmeng continued. Do you think he can hear you two standing so close to each other discussing killing him? Elvis and Leah sneered. If he is not deaf, he should be able to hear us. Gu Mengmeng asked again. You know he can hear us, why are you two still talking? Elvis used his fingers to lift Gu Mengmeng's little face and said with a faint smile, because he's a male that you've taken a fancy to, so we're giving him the last bit of mercy. If you still have a shred of self-awareness, you should run away now. The corners of Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched. She would never understand the world of males. Hubby, how about this? If the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with me, then we don't want this person. My tribe lacks warriors, but my family doesn't lack men. But if he doesn't mean it at all, and it's just the two of you making wild guesses, then let's take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now, okay? Elvis harumphed and turned to look at Oriton. He curled his lips and said, Leah, look at the way he's looking at Xiao Meng. Isn't it familiar? Leah nodded. It's exactly the same as the way you looked at Meng Meng back then. Elvis said, it's exactly the same as how you look at Xiao Meng now. Chapter 392. The sun had already set below the horizon and the agreed time had been reached. Those males who had yet to return did not count. Gu Mengmeng sat on Elvis's shoulders and allowed him to carry her. She looked down at the males who had returned from hunting like a queen patrolling. Needless to say, Oriton definitely had the most prey. It was a difference that could be seen with the naked eye and did not need to be measured. Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's shoulders and gestured for him to put her down. After getting down, Gu Mengmeng walked directly to Oriton and asked, You came back earlier than most of the others. How did you manage to get so many prey? Oriton curled his lips at Gu Mengmeng. He could barely call it a smile that resembled the expression a high school hooligan would make when he blackmailed a junior. Although it was a little creepy, since the corners of his lips were curled up, it should be a smile. Seeing Gu Mengmeng's strange expression, Oriton kept his awkward smile and returned to his usual expressionless face. I guarded Sauter's entrance and everyone who returns has to give me half of their prey. If not, I will kill them and snatch all their prey. Oriton looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, I am guarding the entrance of Sauter. Gu Mengmeng was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. No wonder that blackmailing expression just now was so on point. TSK TSK TSK, Gu Mengmeng felt like she was the reincarnation of Sun Wukong. She turned back to look at Elvis, only to realize that Elvis and Leah were smiling in each other's eyes. She tugged at Elvis's arm and asked, Did you do this before? Elvis nodded his head gladly and admitted it. He even felt a little proud. Leah swung his large tail lightly and wrapped it around Gu Mengmeng's waist. He knew what Gu Mengmeng was thinking about, so he took the initiative to explain. To be able to snatch prey from other males, it proves that he is more powerful than the one being snatched. Looking at the number, he must have felt that he would definitely win before stopping. And until he stopped, he did not lose, or else these prey would have been snatched away by others long ago. With his skills, he would definitely win even if he went out to hunt directly. But he chose this method. Looks like his true motive was to show you his skills. Oh. Gu Mengmeng replied, not fully understanding. She was still thinking to herself, damn it, males have always behaved like birds since ancient times. Their brain circuits were really strange. What made them mistakenly believe that the fiercer they were and the better they fought, the more girls would like them? Gu Mengmeng smacked her lips and thought to herself, compared to the hooligans in school, the Prince Charming Senior from the swimming club is clearly more likable. Every day, she only wore a pair of swimming trunks and soaked in the water. The moment she came out of the water, the sparkling water splashed everywhere. Hiss, it really made people salivate. Xiao Meng. Elvis's face darkened as he called Gu Mengmeng's consciousness back. Gu Mengmeng wiped off her saliva and realized that she was drooling at Oriton because she was thinking about something else. Damn it, it was even harder to explain now. Elvis would definitely think that she had taken a liking to this white tiger. Gu Mengmeng sighed. She thought to herself that a clean slate would be clean on its own, so she asked, "Since you are the one with the most prey today, I will represent Saint Nazir to extend an invitation to you. Welcome to Saint Nazir." Oriton was silent for a moment, his face still as cold as ice. He said expressionlessly, "I want to be your guardian beast. I will only be willing to join Saint Nazir if you agree." Aside from the topic, previously, someone asked me why I said it to be a senior from the swimming club and not the basketball club or the street dance club. Usually, the boys from these two clubs seem to be more popular in school. The answer is that when I was writing the outline of this article, it was during the Olympic Games. Chapter 393. Gu Mengmeng's body went limp and she almost fell. Was it because Elvis was too petty and jealous? Was it because of the sixth sense that males develop from the pressure of competition? But, what's a guardian beast? Gu Mengmeng turned her head and looked at Leah. Leah swayed his large tail and said, "Look, someone like me who is handsome and knows how to please you but is not qualified to mate with you is called a beast pet, a plaything beside your knees. You can call me and order me to leave." Leah swayed his large tail and said, "I'm not qualified to mate with you." Gu Mengmeng immediately waved her hands and said, "Go, go, go, go." But Leah smiled. He held onto Gu Mengmeng's little hand and circled it from her left to her right. Then, he leaned forward and leaned towards Gu Mengmeng. He grinned and said, "See, you can order them around, right?" Gu Mengmeng faked a smile and gave up on the treatment. She waited for Leah to continue. "Leah, guardian beast is also a type of family member, but its position is lower than the beast pet. It's the first line of defense for females. When they encounter any danger, they will be the first to block in front and fight for time for the females and other family members. But, because they don't know how to please females, they usually don't even have the chance to enter the cave. Mating is even more impossible. To put it bluntly, they are just guards of the cave entrance." Gu Mengmeng looked at Oriton awkwardly and whispered to Leah, "Can't you be more tactful with your words? It hurts my pride." "Pride?" Leah repeated Gu Mengmeng's last two words. Then, he smiled and moved his flirtatious face to Gu Mengmeng. His furry large tail swept against her calf from time to time and he said in an ambiguous and affectionate voice, "What's the use of pride for males in front of females? Look at how Elvis and I have degenerated into acting as half-orcs to please you." Gu Mengmeng then realized that ever since she rubbed Elvis's tail once when she was pregnant, he had never kept his tail. She could always grab it and hug it in her arms. When she was sitting, it was the armrest. When she was lying down, it was a warm blanket. When she was standing, it was a toy in her hands. When she was doing OXX, it was a sex toy. She was used to Elvis's tail being by her side and had forgotten that only half-orcs would have beast characteristics. Elvis, had people been pointing at his back and laughing at him for being a half-orc? How could he have never noticed this? Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis guiltily and said, "Keep your tail, you're clearly not a half-orc." Elvis smiled. "It's enough that you know I'm not a half-orc." "But they will laugh at you," Elvis replied. "I don't care what they think." Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's waist and pouted. "Hubby, you will spoil me like this." Elvis said, "Other females have a few or even dozens of males coaxing them, but you only have me." Since they couldn't compete in quantity, they could only compete in quality. You said that only a qualitative change could lead to a qualitative change. So, what other females have? I can't let you have less. Gu Mengmeng was so touched that she was filled with love. She whimpered, "Hubby, you are so nice." Chapter 394. Oriton was silent for a moment before replying, "It's impossible that there are only two males beside the messenger of the beast deity." Elvis narrowed his eyes and his murderous aura started to spread. Oriton did not know if it was because he could not feel Elvis's murderous aura, or because he was too confident in himself, or because he simply had facial paralysis. Anyway, his reaction to the dangerous aura released by Elvis was, no reaction. The two of them stared straight into each other's eyes and Gu Mengmeng felt immense pressure standing in the middle. She did not know how long the two of them were going to stare at each other. Just as Gu Mengmeng was prepared to retreat a little and look at the other prey, Oriton suddenly spoke. I have no intention of mating with the messenger of the beast deity, so you don't have to be so guarded against me. Elvis sneered in disdain. Do you think my Mengmeng likes you? Heh. Oriton was still expressionless. He looked at Elvis, then at Gu Mengmeng, before nodding his head silently. Huh. Gu Mengmeng hurriedly waved her hands and said, I didn't mean that, you misunderstood. Oriton was still expressionless. Although his eyes were looking in Gu Mengmeng's direction, they did not seem to be focused. He said, you just tried to convince your males not to kill me. Gu Mengmeng, Oriton, you even praised me as a good cabbage, and felt lucky that I didn't mate with other females. Gu Mengmeng, Oriton, you even deliberately told me that if I want to join your family, I can't be interested in you. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said, no, I didn't say that. Oriton was silent for a moment, then pinched his throat and looked at Elvis, as if he was imitating someone. Hubby, how about this? If the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with me, then we don't want this person. My tribe lacks warriors, but my family doesn't lack men. But if he doesn't mean it at all, and it's just the two of you making wild guesses, then let's take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now, okay? The corners of Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched. She had a feeling that she could not explain herself. After Oriton finished speaking, he returned to his normal tone and said, didn't you say that just now to tell me that if I want to join your clan, I can't be interested in you? If you tell me how to join your family, doesn't that mean that you like me? Gu Mengmeng. She really admired the way the males in the beast world thought. Oriton, also, you defended my dignity in front of your pet. Gu Mengmeng turned to look at Leah in a daze. Leah shrugged his shoulders and nodded helplessly, indicating that Gu Mengmeng had indeed done that. Then, Oriton continued, also, you looked at me for a long time just now, and even drooled. Pfft. Gu Mengmeng raised her head and asked the heavens, can I choose to vomit blood and die now? Gu Mengmeng gestured for him to stop and said, I can explain about drooling, that wasn't because of you. I was just lost in thought and thought of a handsome swimsuit JPG, it has nothing to do with you, you've misunderstood. The moment Gu Mengmeng finished her sentence, she felt a chill on her back. Stiffening her neck, she turned around and saw Elvis and Lee's sinister smile, handsome, swimsuit. JPG? Aside from the topic, Gu Mengmeng, sobs, hubby, I can explain. Chapter 395. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and licked her lips, saying, so many people are watching, leave me some face. Elvis nodded and said, alright, we'll talk about it when we get back tonight. Alright, Gu Mengmeng pounced into Elvis's arms and kissed him on the cheek, saying, so sweet, no wonder you're my hubby. Elvis chuckled and gently caressed Gu Mengmeng's little head. The corners of his lips curled up, but his voice was so calm that there was no fluctuation. There's no use trying to please me. You have to explain clearly to me about the swimsuit Prince Charming. Gu Mengmeng sighed and really wanted to give herself 2 tight slaps. Why did she have to mention the swimsuit Prince Charming? Leah also gave a fake smile and moved closer to Gu Mengmeng's ear, saying, yeah, I also really want to know, how does that Prince Charming look like? Gu Mengmeng laughed guiltily and said, let's get down to business first, alright? Everyone's waiting. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before looking at Oriton, saying, if your condition is to become Xiao Meng's guardian beast, then we can only take it that you have given up on this spot. Unfortunately, you and Saint Nazir are not fated. Oriton's face was still expressionless and one could not tell if he was disappointed or angry. He just looked at Elvis quietly and after a long while, he said, you're the tribe leader but she's the messenger of the beast deity. You can't make decisions for her. Elvis raised his eyebrows and sneered, saying, to join Xiao Meng's family, even if you're just a guardian beast, you have to pass my test. How long do you think you can last in front of me? Oriton thought about it seriously for a moment before shaking his head and said, I don't know, I can try. Elvis handed Gu Mengmeng over to Leah and stretched his neck to both sides as a warm-up. Then, he walked towards Oriton step by step. Was he going to fight? I. Gu Mengmeng called out twice, successfully attracting their attention. Being stared at by two pairs of bloodthirsty eyes, Gu Mengmeng still felt pressured. Timidly, she extended her arms towards Elvis and said, "Hubby, hug." Elvis was taken aback for a moment before he laughed out helplessly. He turned back and carried Gu Mengmeng from Li's arms. He tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose lightly and said, "Are you that scared that I will kill him?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "We agreed that you will only fight with males that I approve of. He is not someone that I approve of, so don't waste your energy." Elvis was stunned for a moment before his smile became even more radiant. He whispered into her ear, "Tonight, is there anything that requires me to conserve my energy?" Gu Mengmeng blushed. I. Elvis nodded and said, "I understand, of course it's you." Gu Mengmeng felt hopeless. Heavens, earth, she really didn't mean it that way. Elvis protected Gu Mengmeng in his arms and turned to look at Oriton, saying, "You heard it with your own ears. Xiao Meng said that you are not someone that she approves of. So, don't mention about guardian beasts anymore. If you're not willing to join Saint Nazir, we won't force you." Oriton tilted his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng, who was in a dilemma. He asked, "Can I ask you a question?" Gu Mengmeng looked up blankly, "Ah." Chapter 396. Gu Mengmeng looked at Oriton like he was an idiot and said, "Because I already have a husband." Oriton said, "But, even an ordinary female has more than one partner, not to mention you are the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mengmeng smiled helplessly and answered, "You also know that I am the messenger of the beast deity. I am different from other females, I only want one partner." Oriton remained silent for a moment and asked again, "Why him? Don't you feel afraid or disgusted?" Gu Mengmeng frowned and looked at Oriton, asking, "What do you mean?" Oriton looked at Elvis and then at Gu Mengmeng, saying, "His background, you don't know?" Gu Mengmeng's expression was very bad and she said with obvious rejection, "I know, but what has my husband's background got to do with you? What right do you have to make irresponsible remarks in front of me?" Oriton was taken aback and revealed the first expression that Gu Mengmeng had seen. He only widened his eyes slightly, but it was enough to show his astonishment. "You know his background but you are still willing to accept him, not afraid of him and not despise him?" Gu Mengmeng rolled up her sleeves and wanted to hit him, but looking at the pile of prey in front of him, Gu Mengmeng felt that she should be a gentleman and not hit him if she could reason with him. Thus, she placed her hands on her hips and raised her chin, saying, "Everyone can't choose their own background. Your mother didn't discuss this with you before giving birth to you, right? No matter how powerful your parents are, it's your parents who are capable and it has nothing to do with you. On the other hand, no matter how evil your parents are, it's your parents who are immoral. When they were dragged to be executed, they would not execute you for 5 minutes just because you are their son." Oriton stared unblinkingly at Gu Mengmeng's face, listening to her words filled with righteous indignation. Even though he was being scolded, his eyes gradually started to focus, gradually reflecting the petite but capable figure in his eyes. "If you have any right to criticize my husband, it should be under the premise that you have done something better than him, and not because your parents are more powerful than his parents, understand?" After Gu Mengmeng finished her long speech in one breath, she took 2 deep breaths and said, "Originally, you are a capable male and I sincerely wanted to invite you to join Saint Nazir and become a member of our tribe. But now..." Oriton raised his head, his eyes shining brightly as he said, "I am willing to join Saint Nazir without any additional conditions." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She blinked her eyes and asked, "Are you sure?" Oriton nodded and said, "Yes." Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. She looked at Elvis and said, Why don't we take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now?" Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, "I'll listen to you." Gu Mengmeng smiled with her eyes curved, then extended her hand to Oriton. "Welcome to Saint Nazir." Oriton was taken aback. Then, he knelt down on one knee and placed his head under Gu Mengmeng's hand. He looked like, "God, please bless me." Gu Mengmeng was speechless. She exclaimed, "Why is the difference in culture as vast as the Milky Way?" "I just wanted to shake your hand to show my friendliness, big brother." "Why are you kneeling at my feet with a righteous look on your face?" "How am I supposed to receive it?" Digression. Today's 9 chapters have already been updated, babies. A friendly reminder, it's almost the end of the month. Your tickets, if you don't pass them to me, will expire. Chapter 397. Elvis, on the other hand, was much calmer than Gu Mengmeng. He carried Gu Mengmeng and turned to leave without even turning back. "Gu Mengmeng, we have to choose 10 warriors today. We have only chosen 1, there are still 9 more." Elvis smiled. "Leah had already judged the rarity and quantity of the prey when you were flirting with Oriton. He has already chosen the other 9, you don't have to worry." "Gu Mengmeng, I am the HR, you are overstepping your authority, you are interfering with the business of other departments, you are." Gu Mengmeng stopped and looked at Gu Mengmeng, asking, "Do you want to choose a warrior from the tribe or a male for yourself?" Gu Mengmeng said righteously, "Of course I want to choose a warrior from the tribe. Although I can take a look at some pretty men, it will not affect my professional judgment. Distinguishing between public and private interests is my basic principle, all right?" Elvis raised his eyebrows and repeated, "Look at some pretty men, huh?" Gu Mengmeng covered her mouth and accidentally said what was on her mind. Her big eyes darted around and she shook her head guiltily, wanting to take back what she said just now. Leah swung his large tail and reached out one hand to hook Gu Mengmeng's chin, while the other hand rested on Elvis's shoulder. He leaned forward in an ambiguous and seductive manner, his moist lips looked even more alluring under the moonlight. His long and narrow eyes were full of smiles, but there was a sense of danger in them. "How long has it been since you took a good look at me?" "Huh? Don't tell me, you are tired of my body and looks?" Gu Mengmeng had goosebumps all over her body. She had a premonition that if Elvis was jealous, he would at most make her unable to get off the bed. But if Leah was jealous, the scene in her imagination was pitch black and she could not think of anything. But she just felt that it was so scary, so scary. I am just taking a look. Although I am a married woman, taking a look is still alright. Just taking a look, it should not be considered as indecent, right? Then the 2 of you would at least look at other beauties. Beautiful females, right? Elvis, other than you, I don't look at any other females. Leah, I can't even be at ease staring at you, afraid that someone else will beat me to it and snatch away the little place I have left in your heart. It's fine if you don't sympathize with me, but you're accusing me first?" Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and said, "I was wrong, all right. I won't look at handsome men in the future, all right." Elvis looked at her aggrieved look and felt very complicated. He sighed and said, "If you feel that I can't satisfy you and you need more males, why don't you consider Leah first?" Gu Mengmeng wanted to cry but no tears came out. "I really know my mistake. I will keep my private life and private life separate from now on. When I'm working, I will only work. When I'm looking at handsome men, I will only look at you, all right? Don't talk to me about mating again. I really don't have that thought. I just want to take a look." Elvis did not say anything more and just carried Gu Mengmeng towards the stone house. Leah wagged her tail and followed behind them. At a place where Gu Mengmeng and Elvis could not see, Lee's smile was mixed with a tinge of bitterness. If he could also hug Mengmeng like this and ask her if she had taken a fancy to another male. Was it because he couldn't satisfy her? How great would that be? Sighing, Leah reverted to his usual flirtatious self. He kept all his emotions and pretended that he was not sad. Aside from the topic, recommending her good friend Half Candy, who was currently PK, Battle of the Aces, God of War and Wild Wives, there is a mission that needs to be forged with blood and fire. It needs to be honed with life and death. This was a story about a mission and bloodshed. Mo Bing, the legend of the new military camp. It was rumored that she was arrogant and unruly, cold and heartless. She never cared about anyone. In reality, she disguised herself as a man and became the first female commander in history to command troops on the battlefield. Sniping, fighting, capturing, everything was easy for her. Deserts, jungles, highlands. She left her beautiful figure everywhere. Mo Bing's greatest joy in life was fighting the strong and flirting with the Prince Charming. Torturing the weak and fighting with the best. Leng Xiaoting, the legend of the military world. It was rumored that he was the king of hell of the military world. He was cold-faced and heartless and did not understand the meaning of human relationships. Chapter 398. Back at the stone house, Elvis placed Gu Mengmeng on the bed and stood beside Leah in front of Gu Mengmeng. He looked at Gu Mengmeng coldly and said, "All right, now that there's no one else around, you can talk about your swimsuit, Prince Charming." Gu Mengmeng felt that she had been living in an awkward atmosphere for the entire day and the cancer of awkwardness was about to break out. She smirked and said, "I haven't forgotten." Elvis nodded but did not reply. Leah leaned to the side and looked nonchalant. He fiddled with his fingers and said with some disappointment, "I still remember that you used to call me Beauty. This is the first time I've heard the term Prince Charming. It seems like he's much more beautiful than me, right?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, No, the males in my world can never be compared to you. They're not even on the same level." Leah looked up and curled his lips seductively, saying, "But, you call him Prince Charming." Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed and he remained silent for a long time before saying, "The first time we met, you wore that weird outfit, was it to meet him?" How did you know?" Gu Mengmeng blurted out but immediately realized that she had said something wrong. She hurriedly covered her mouth but it was too late. Gu Mengmeng sighed and complained that her IQ was not online today. She looked up at Elvis and said pitifully, "Can I be lenient if I tell the truth?" Elvis remained silent and said, "You dressed like that, so it was to meet him." Gu Mengmeng felt like she was caught red-handed in bed. But who the hell ever heard of cheating before marriage? Elvis's eyes were filled with a strong sense of loss and sorrow. He just stared at Gu Mengmeng, his eyes like a black hole, wanting to suck Gu Mengmeng into it. "At that time, you clearly said that you risked drowning for me, then, you even kissed me. But, so that was a lie?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Elvis's gaze made her heart ache. She stood up from the bed and flew towards Elvis. The distance was a little far and if Elvis did not step forward to catch her, she would definitely fall to the ground. But no matter how sad Elvis was, he could not bear to let her get hurt. So before Gu Mengmeng could tilt her body 30 degrees, Elvis had already hugged her firmly in his arms. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's neck and whispered in his ear gently, "Hubby, don't let your imagination run wild. I'll tell you the truth, tell you everything, all right?" Elvis hesitated for a moment, but eventually nodded his head. Gu Mengmeng straightened her body and held Elvis's face. She looked into his eyes and said, "That day, I wore that bikini to meet that swimsuit Prince Charming. But I didn't even see him before I transmigrated here and met you. I do admire him, but he doesn't even know who I am. There's nothing between us, really. Don't be sad, okay?" Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed, an uneasy light flashing in his blue eyes. He asked, "What if you saw him that day? Would he not have come here? I almost couldn't meet you, didn't I?" Chapter 399. Gu Mengmeng snuggled in Elvis's arms and swung her little feet. She thought for a while and smiled, "Actually, I can't even remember what that Prince Charming Sr. looks like. I only remember that he was not willing to admit defeat and was so focused when he was trying his best to advance towards his goal. The confidence he exuded when he stood on the podium made me feel dizzy. Maybe I don't like him, I just don't want to be alone anymore, so I found someone to rely on." Elvis frowned and said, "Alone? Don't you have Yu Xijin by your side?" Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. "Do you still think that Yu Xijin is real? That's just a story. I've explained it many times, there's no such person in real life." Elvis remained silent and did not reply. Leah, however, wagged his tail and said casually, "When you described him, from his eyes to his actions, it was too detailed. It's hard to believe if you said it was all fabricated." Gu Mengmeng had no choice but to explain what a television was. Then, Elvis asked, "You like television?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "If there's no cell phone, television is the best entertainment. So I actually quite like it." Elvis nodded and asked again, "What does that machine look like? Where can I catch it?" Gu Mengmeng was taken aback for a moment, then she laughed out loud and said, "Hubby, that's a product from our world civilization, it doesn't exist here." Elvis's expression was a little disappointed and he muttered, "Is it, the magical weapon from the beast deity world?" Pfft. Gu Mengmeng held back her laughter and nodded, saying, "You can say that, but that thing is harmful to the eyes, so it's good not having it." Elvis nodded and said, "So when you first came here, you couldn't see anything at night because of that machine, right?" Gu Mengmeng wanted to say that even without a cell phone and television, she couldn't see anything at night, but after thinking about it, she decided not to, so she nodded silently. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms and patted her back gently to comfort her. "When you were by the beast deity's side, you suffered. I'm sorry that I couldn't appear by your side to protect you at that time. That's why you suffered so much and even hurt your eye." Actually, Gu Mengmeng was thinking, in such a melancholic environment, if she said that she enjoyed watching television and playing with her phone, would it be too much of a wet blanket? Taking a deep breath, Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis back and said, "It's not too late to meet him now. I'm willing to sacrifice my right to watch TV and play with my phone for the rest of my life in exchange for your company." Elvis fell into self-reproach for not participating in Gu Mengmeng's past, but Leah clearly understood something else. "So, before coming here, you've always been alone? Aren't your father and mother accompanying you?" Gu Mengmeng's smile froze. She pursed her lips and shook her head, saying, "My father abandoned my mother when I was very young and mated with another younger female. From then on, there was no news of him, as if he had disappeared from the world. My mother is currently mating with another male, and I, this burden, was finally abandoned after my mother and the new father gave birth to a younger brother." Out of topic. Chapter 400. Elvis and Leah were so shocked that they could not say a word. No matter if it was Gu Mengmeng's father abandoning his wife and daughter to marry someone else or her mother abandoning her after remarrying, it was all unheard of and unimaginable. Clenching his fists tightly, Elvis could only feel the suffocation in his chest. He gritted his teeth and said, "You are a precious female, how can you?" The word abandoning was too heavy, Elvis could not use this word on Gu Mengmeng no matter what. Gu Mengmeng smiled bitterly and said, "In our world, females are not as precious as here. On the contrary, in many backward places, they would even throw their newborn daughters into the rubbish bin or go to an illegal clinic to do a B-scan during pregnancy to induce labor after confirming the gender." Gu Mengmeng could feel Elvis's body trembling. It was an emotion that was struggling between anger and heartache. She knew that her man was grieving for her past. Raising her head and smiling, Gu Mengmeng said, "I am still considered good, at least my mother raised me until I was 14. I could earn some living expenses by performing in the small theater in the amusement park. During the winter and summer breaks, I would also work part-time at McDonald's to earn my tuition fees. After I was 18, life became better. When I was in university, I had a full scholarship and the accommodation and canteen in school were much cheaper than outside. So, the period in university was the most relaxing and satisfying period of my life. I originally wanted to learn how to fall in love or something in this most beautiful period of my life. Unfortunately, I did not even have the chance to confess before I transmigrated here." There were many words in Gu Mengmeng's words that Elvis and Leah could not understand. But they were very clear about one thing, that was, there was a deep sense of loneliness in Gu Mengmeng's eyes. This kind of loneliness was exactly what Elvis and Leah saw in each other's eyes when they first met. But at that time, besides loneliness, there was also hatred in their eyes. And in Gu Mengmeng's eyes, there was hope in that faint sense of loneliness. She gazed at Elvis with her clear eyes and smiled sweetly. "I'm still very lucky to be able to come here and meet you. You've given me an unprecedentedly comfortable life and spiritual comfort. You've made me believe that my life is starting to change for the better. Xiao Meng. Elvis did not know what to say to comfort Gu Mengmeng. After deliberating for a long time, he only said, "I love you." Gu Mengmeng replied with a smile, "I love you too." As for Leah, he finally understood why Gu Mengmeng refused to forgive and accept him at this moment. In her opinion, he had abandoned her, right? No matter how many reasons he had, his actions did indeed constitute abandonment, right? Leah lowered his head and pressed on his chest tightly. He gritted his teeth but could not see Gu Mengmeng's face. He used to have the right to protect her, to comfort her, and to care for her. But now, why should he feel heartache? Why should he regret it? What right did she have to say, "Please forgive me"? Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and smiled. "All right, why did you make the atmosphere so depressing? If all the hardships I suffered in the first half of my life were to accumulate good luck in exchange for an opportunity to meet you, I think it's quite worth it." Out of topic, tragic life is different. Everyone has their own difficult but clenched teeth to persist in the past. We do not have the right to refuse the suffering that God gives us, but we have the right to choose how to face it. Babies, remember. The harder it is, the more you must smile. Chapter 401. Although I have both parents, I still have 6 relatives to rely on. But now, I have you and our sons. I have a complete family. I will give you all the love that I had no place to store in the past, then accept your love with peace of mind. That will be very blissful. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis and smiled sweetly. "So, don't worry that I will leave you. You and our sons are all that I have left. Where else can I go after leaving the both of you?" Elvis frowned, but the corners of his lips were curled up. He could not tell what he was feeling. He felt heartache and lucky at the same time. He knew the feeling of having nothing but someone. He was in such a state himself. He was the leader of Saint Nazir, but Saint Nazir was not important to him. The only important thing was Gu Mengmeng. And coincidentally, he was fortunate enough to become the only pillar in Gu Mengmeng's heart. Her reliance made him feel very lucky and blissful. But the price of this luck was that she had to struggle for so many years in a place he could not see. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms and kissed her hair, saying, "If there is a price to pay for meeting you, then it should have been borne by me. I was too useless, that's why you had to suffer so much." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "Didn't you also drift around for so many years to meet me?" If the torture he had endured in the past was to meet her, the corners of Elvis's lips curled up slightly. Those bloody scenes, those cruelty, those tortures and those narrow escapes seemed to have quietly changed in his memories. It was not tragic, not pitiful and not tragic. Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, "Thank you for beautifying my life." That night, Gu Mengmeng told Elvis many interesting things about her working days. She wanted Elvis to not think that her life was too tragic, but no matter how relaxed her tone was, Elvis's expression always became more and more solemn. After that, Gu Mengmeng fell asleep in Elvis's arms in a daze. In her half-awake state, she heard Elvis murmuring softly beside her ear, "You still haven't answered me, that swimsuit Prince Charming, who exactly is he?" Gu Mengmeng's heart thumped twice and she decided to immediately fall into a deep sleep. An ex-boyfriend appearing in front of her every day, a made-up Eugene appearing every now and then. If this swimsuit Prince Charming was added into the mix, life was really rich. The next morning, when Gu Mengmeng stretched herself and sat up, she felt that the atmosphere in the house was not quite right. Rubbing her eyes, she realized that Cole was actually standing in the house, wearing a strange outfit. It was made of animal skin, but the style looked like the attire worn by ancient priests. It was a cheap imitation. Elvis's face darkened as he stood in front of Cole, facing off against him. Cole was very similar to Leah in some aspects. He always had a humble but distant smile on his face. He just smiled at Elvis. Even though they did not speak, Gu Mengmeng felt as if she could see lightning flashing and thunder roaring between the two of them. Chapter 402. Gu Mengmeng ignored Leah. Every night, this fellow would crawl onto the bed like a Samoyed. She used all kinds of methods to reject and defend herself, but no matter what she did before she slept, this fellow would still be on her bed when she woke up. Getting used to it was a very scary thing. Because Gu Mengmeng would no longer be shocked by Li's appearance on her bed. Directly ignoring this fellow, Gu Mengmeng jumped down from the bed and walked to Elvis's side. She looked at Cole and then at Elvis, asking softly, "Hubby, what's wrong?" "Great messenger, good morning." Cole bowed respectfully to Gu Mengmeng, then said, "Today is the beast deity sacrificial ceremony, to thank the beast deity for blessing the females to survive the harsh winter, and to pray for more cubs to be born this year. In the past years, it was always hosted by me, but since the great messenger has returned this year, you should naturally be the one hosting it. So, I am here to invite you over." The corners of Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched, recalling how Leah stood on the wooden platform and danced the Great Spirit during her coming-of-age ceremony. She laughed awkwardly and said, "Then, I am not familiar with this business. Since you are used to it, you should do it." Cole seemed to be a little surprised. Immediately kneeling down on one knee, he said sincerely, "I dare not overstep my boundaries." Leah stood up from the bed, wagging his tail, and hung onto Elvis's shoulder like a boneless person, his large tail circling around Gu Mengmeng's waist. His voice was still lazy and slightly hoarse. He said, "Hosting the beast deity sacrificial ceremony is a symbol of status. Only the most authoritative person has the right to do so. Since you are here, it will definitely not be his turn. Mengmeng." As Leah said, he tightened his tail around Gu Mengmeng's waist and pulled her closer to him. His slender fingers hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin and his long and affectionate eyes shone with a gentle light. His dark red lips parted slightly and he said, "I also want to see how you look like in the priest robe, you must be so beautiful." Gu Mengmeng's eyes were filled with tenderness. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes and slapped Li's hand away. She took a step back into Elvis's arms and said, "But I don't know how to dance the great sorcerer." Cole took a step forward and took out a piece of beast skin. He handed it to Gu Mengmeng with both hands and said, "This is another esoterica that Sauter worships. It is said to be related to the sacrifice ceremony. Please have a look, Lord Emissary." Gu Mengmeng was traumatized by the word esoteric. She thought to herself, could it be the hand-copied version of 300 poems of the Tang dynasty? But it was not a good idea for Cole to continue acting like this, so Gu Mengmeng took it over suspiciously. When she opened it to take a look, she almost choked on her own saliva. 2 lines of words were embroidered on the animal skin with some unknown thread: sacrificial dance, small apple, slowed down 16 times. The words recited by the priest were the lyrics of the English version of Little Apple. Gu Mengmeng suddenly laughed. She shook the piece of beast skin and turned to look at Cole, then at Leah. She thought to herself, did you know that the previous messenger of the beast deity whom you all respected as a god was actually a clown who knew how to dance in the square? How did this fellow manage to trick the entire world into becoming lame? It had been 1,000 years and they still couldn't find a bicycle. Lord Emissary, is there a problem? Cole felt that Gu Mengmeng's gaze was not right, so he asked. Chapter 403. Cole nodded and slowly closed his eyes. He opened his arms slightly to his sides and lifted his chin slightly, giving off a holy vibe, love plant awe. It's so perfect that it's like a father and a wife. Gu Mengmeng could not help but burst out laughing. Did I plan to find out about the fruit? Cole widened his eyes and looked at Gu Mengmeng in disbelief. His agitation was beyond words. He believed that Gu Mengmeng must have understood the contents of the sacrificial chant from the beast skin left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity. He had once doubted that it was possible for such a small piece of beast skin to completely record the sacrificial chant with only such short symbols on it. But now he understood that the wisdom of the beast deity was limitless and it was not something he could guess. However, Cole would never know that the reason why Gu Mengmeng knew about such an unconventional English version of Little Apple was because on the first weekend of school, a few girls from her dormitory had gone to the KTV to sing and bond. At the start, all of them acted like virtuous ladies, but after 2 bottles of beer, all of them became more and more uncontrollable, acting all kinds of silly acts one after another. In the end, someone led them to sing the English version of Little Apple for the whole night at the KTV. Because of that, the few girls formed a firm revolutionary friendship. They even made a pact that whoever broke the dormitory rules would have to sing the English version of Little Apple 3 times in the field. Gu Mengmeng did not do her duty properly because she went to work, so she had to sing at least 1 round in the field every week. If not for the fact that Gu Mengmeng was very sure that her dormitory mates were attending classes properly before she disappeared, she would have suspected that the previous messenger of the beast deity was someone from her dormitory. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "All right, I got it. Isn't it just a sacrificial ceremony? I'll be there in a while, you can go back first, all right?" Cole looked at Elvis, who had been silent the whole time with a black face. He maintained his usual smile and nodded. Then, he looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, "Then, I will wait for the great messenger by the side of the deity altar." Gu Mengmeng waved her hands, indicating that she understood. After Cole left, Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis and asked, "Hubby, why do you look so unhappy? Did something happen? Did Cole offend you?" Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms and did not let go for a long time. After a while, he said with a deep voice, "If you like foxes, can't you accept Leah?" "Not Cole, not Cole." Gu Mengmeng was almost suffocating from Elvis's hug. She said with a dumbfounded expression, "I have nothing to do with Cole. You are always there whenever I see him. I am innocent." Elvis was still hugging Gu Mengmeng tightly. "You don't like him, right?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. "I definitely have no intention of liking Cole. Not at all." Elvis heaved a sigh of relief and said, "He came to challenge me just now." "Huh?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis in shock. Seeing her shocked look, Elvis felt much more at ease. He heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "He said he wants to become your beast pet and serve you together with Leah." Chapter 404. You said before that I am not allowed to duel with any males that are not acknowledged by you, so I rejected him. Elvis squinted his eyes and smiled. "Moreover, I feel that I can serve you well." Gu Mengmeng nodded her head vigorously and said, Yes, I am already dying to have you. I definitely do not have any thoughts of letting a wolf into my house or having an affair." Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng horizontally and placed her back on the bed. He tidied her clothes and said, "If there comes a day when I can't satisfy you anymore, I don't have any opinion on how many partners you want to get or how many beast pets you want to get. But, it definitely cannot be Cole." Gu Mengmeng recalled Elvis's energetic and domineering attitude every time and shuddered all over. She shook her head and said, "That day will probably not come, don't worry blindly." Elvis seemed to have seen through Gu Mengmeng's thoughts and his lips curled upwards unknowingly. He nodded with pride and said, "Anyway, that Cole's intentions are not pure. You should stay away from him." Gu Mengmeng nodded. Gu Mengmeng said, "Why do you say that? Just because he wants to be my beast pet? Oratin even said he wants to be my guardian beast. Didn't you say that his intentions are not pure?" Elvis stopped what he was doing and looked at Gu Mengmeng with a serious and stern expression. He said, "Cole's level is higher than mine. He is at least at the peak of 4th level or is already a 5th level orc." Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and said, "Are you afraid that you can't beat him?" Elvis hesitated for a moment and nodded. He said, "To be able to break through the 3rd level boundary, it means that he has already mated before. But he said he wants to be your beast pet. This is very strange. I am worried that what if he was instigated by his female to harm you? I might not be able to beat him." Gu Mengmeng reflected for a while with a dazed expression before remembering the fixed pattern of mating to break through to the 3rd level. For people living in the modern world, it was really easy to forget that there was such a thing as leveling up. Gu Mengmeng asked timidly, "That, if it's 5th level, is it very powerful?" Elvis nodded and said, 5th level is already the highest level an orc can reach. In the entire beast world, there should not be more than 100 who can reach this level. Any higher and it would be the Beast King. In the entire beast world, there is only one snake beast of unknown origin that has reached this level. So, if Cole has ulterior motives, even if Leah and I work together, we might not be able to protect you from his sharp claws. Gu Mengmeng raised her eyebrows and said, Cole is actually a demon king. Damn, we are going to fight the boss soon. I am not even prepared. Leah wagged his tail and said, Don't worry, he won't dare to be rash. Gu Mengmeng turned around and asked Leah, This half-deity, what do you mean by that? Just by looking at her expression, Leah could tell that half-deity was definitely not a good word and was most likely mocking him. However, he did not mind and just flipped onto the bed. He knelt behind Gu Mengmeng and started combing her hair. As he deftly combed her hair with his fingers, he replied, Didn't you see that Cole's eyes almost popped out when you recited that sacrificial chant just now? Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, He did look rather shocked, but it was not as exaggerated as you made it out to be. Chapter 405. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while. It seemed that Leah also rarely had any expressions, especially in front of outsiders. He would always fake a smile that looked refined and courteous, but in reality, he was very unapproachable. When he was with her, Leah would have more expressions, but it was also rare for him to show too much emotion. Most of them were low and subtle, the kind that would be overlooked if one did not pay attention. Regardless of whether he was sad or happy, he would always express it with a smile. Gu Mengmeng held her chin and looked at Leah, asking, Does your family have a group rule like, must maintain a fake smile like a prince? Leah shook his head, No, at least my father did not teach me this rule. Gu Mengmeng asked, Then why do you and Cole look like the wax figures in Madame Tussauds wax museum? Your expression is an unshakable fake smile? Leah remained silent for a moment, as if he was organizing his thoughts, before replying, Maybe it's because he is too important to me, so I started to imitate him unconsciously. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while, maybe, the eldest brother was like a father, and a father's love was as heavy as a mountain. Li's past was filled with too much sadness, and Gu Mengmeng did not want to rub salt on his wounds, so she did not continue asking, and just changed the topic back. Then maybe he was just shocked because he did not expect me to really know that sacrificial incantation. That doesn't mean anything. If someone could recite the Great Xinhua Dictionary in front of me, I would also be very shocked. Leah shook his head, giving a meaningful smile. You only saw shock on his face? Gu Mengmeng nodded, recalling carefully, she really only saw some shocked expressions. Leah hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin, then scrutinized every detail on her face like he was admiring a piece of art. He suddenly smiled and said, It's no wonder, after all. Not everyone understands him like I do. Leah used his fingertip to stroke Gu Mengmeng's little face, then said in a seductive tone, Do you want to know why he challenged Elvis to become your beast pet when he clearly has his own female? Gu Mengmeng nodded, indicating that she wanted to know. Li's hand glided from Gu Mengmeng's shoulder to her arm, stopping at the outside of her upper arm to draw circles gently. Do you want to know what he will do during the offering ceremony? Gu Mengmeng thought for a while. Although she knew how to dance, Little Apple, and recite the English lyrics, she really could not predict what kind of tricks the previous clown would come up with. Since this sacrifice was held every year, Leah must know some details. It would be good to rehearse in advance to avoid embarrassing himself. So, Gu Mengmeng nodded again. Li's hand continued to move downwards, brushing past her elbow and down her arm. He gently grabbed her wrist and continued to ask, Cole has always been someone who will not give up until he reaches his goal. Elvis rejected his challenge. He will definitely have a backup plan. Do you want to know how he will deal with Elvis? Gu Mengmeng did not even think before nodding her head heavily. Li's hand continued to move downwards, finally intertwining with Gu Mengmeng's fingers, forming a tightly intertwined position. Leaning his upper body forward slightly, Li's face stopped at the tip of Gu Mengmeng's nose. He said in an ambiguous tone, Call me Daddy Leah and I will tell you. Aside from the topic, that, if I say I did not stutter on purpose, would anyone believe me? I swear to the heavens, I really did not do it on purpose. I guess, how many people would have shouted on behalf of Gu Mengmeng, Daddy Leah. So, today's 9 o'clock has ended. Chapter 406. Gu Mengmeng's face fell. She rolled her eyes and said an affectionate, "Scram," before pulling back her hand and turning to leave. But Leah followed closely behind her, wagging his big tail and said, "You obviously want to know, why are you still so awkward? Just say it once, come on, whisper it softly, just for me to hear." Gu Mengmeng turned her head and said, "I don't want to know anymore." But Leah smiled and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head, saying, "What an awkward yet cute little fellow. Hey, calling me daddy in front of Elvis, just thinking about it makes you feel like a little deer is running wild." Gu Mengmeng blushed and turned to look at this ex-boyfriend who wanted her to call him daddy in front of her hubby. She shouted in embarrassment, "Scram." Leah shrugged his shoulders and said, "If you're really embarrassed, then let Elvis do it. If he does, I can barely accept it." Pfft. Gu Mengmeng choked on her saliva and started coughing violently. Her mind started to uncontrollably flash with some SM scenes. Leah smiled coldly and sickly, waving his little leather whip in a condescending manner, whipping Elvis who was wearing a bikini. Then Elvis whimpered and called out, "Daddy Leah eh." Goosebumps rose all over Gu Mengmeng's body and she felt uncomfortable all over. She even started to be unable to look Elvis and Leah in the eye. But Leah just had to walk to Elvis's side in a flirtatious manner. He placed an arm on Elvis's shoulder and used his fingers to play with Elvis's ears, blowing air into his ears, saying, "Mengmeng really wants to know, how is it, do you want to help her? Call me Daddy Leah and I will fulfill my little wish." Gu Mengmeng screamed in her heart, "No, no, hubby." Elvis's face was cold as he turned his head and said expressionlessly, "I have a better idea." Leah blinked his eyes and responded with a single syllable instinctively. Before his brain could react, his knees gave way and he was stunned by the powerful aura that Elvis suddenly exuded. The irresistible difference in level caused him to lose his balance. He fell down, and his whole body was in a rather sorry state. Elvis remained standing at the same spot and looked down at Leah from above. "Don't go against the orders of the head of the family and don't challenge the authority of the first partner. Otherwise, you'll be miserable and ugly." After Elvis finished speaking, he retracted his pressure. Then, he saw Leah pouncing into Gu Mengmeng's arms shamelessly, as if he had been wronged. He curled up beside Gu Mengmeng's legs in a kneeling position, burying his head into Gu Mengmeng's thighs. His large furry tail wrapped around half of his body and he said with a tearful look, "Mengmeng, Elvis is bullying me again, you have to protect me." Sobs, sobs, sobs. "I want to mate, I want to level up." Sobs, sobs, sobs. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in astonishment and only regained her senses after a long while. She asked softly, "Pardon me for asking, did you graduate from the Beast World Drama Queen Academy? The Oscars really owe you 10,086 Oscars." Elvis walked to Gu Mengmeng's side and carried her up. Then, he stepped on the base of Lee's tail with one foot and transformed his other hand into a wolf's claw. With a cold face, he said, "Answer Xiao Meng's question or I will shave off all the fur on your tail." Shave, all, off. Chapter 407. Leah looked up at Gu Mengmeng pitifully. With his tail being stepped on by Elvis, he decided not to get up anymore. He leaned over the side of the bed and strangely felt like a drunken concubine. "All right, you are the first partner." Leah stretched out his arm lazily, then supported his head with his hand and said slowly, "Guess, how many sons does my mother have?" Gu Mengmeng did not understand what Leah meant, but since Leah was the 9th highness, it would definitely not be less than 9. Gu Mengmeng vaguely remembered that foxes gave birth to an average of 7 to 10 cubs per litter, but only around 4 survived. Unless they had masochistic tendencies, they would not count their dead sons in the ranking, so, if Leah was the 9th highness, then he would have at least 2 to 3 litters, right? So, Gu Mengmeng guessed, 11 or 12. Leah shook his head and smiled slyly, saying, 9, I am the youngest. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly, completely not understanding what was going on with Lee's smug expression. Was being the youngest in the family also a glorious thing? This only proved that you ran slower than the other brothers when you were a tadpole. Elvis saw that Leah started to answer Gu Mengmeng's doubts, so he released his leg. Lee's tail was freed and he swayed it lazily. He flipped over and sat up, looking at Elvis, saying, "Next time, if you want to threaten me, you have to come up with a more reliable reason, or else I will not cooperate with you." Elvis raised his eyebrows, saying, "You don't believe that I will shave all your fur?" Leah shook his head, with a "you are an idiot" expression, saying, "Meng Meng likes my tail so much, if you really shave it. I don't mind, at most I will temporarily maintain my human form and not show my tail. But the one who will be disappointed will definitely be Meng Meng. Will you do anything that will make her sad?" Elvis clenched his teeth and said coldly, "I can try once occasionally." "Tsk, you really know how to brag," Leah said with a face full of disdain. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Sometimes she really wondered how this pair of enemies could live together peacefully in the past. With Lee's cheap mouth, how did Elvis resist from strangling him to death in the past? Stretching out her hand, Gu Mengmeng gestured for him to stop. "Can you answer my question first? I'm going to perform a recital at the sacrificial ceremony later." "I'm in a hurry." Leah smacked his lips and resumed the rhythm. "Then do you know what Cole's ranking in the family is?" Gu Mengmeng had an inaccurate concept of the beast world. Many of the systems here resembled the feudal society in ancient China. Thus, almost without thinking, he blurted out, "Boss." Leah was still smiling and his expression did not change, but Gu Mengmeng could see a tinge of sadness in his smile. Frowning, she asked, "Why? Isn't he the boss?" Leah shook his head. "He's the second oldest." Gu Mengmeng did not understand where the sadness on Lee's face came from, but her instincts told her that Leah would not ask some irrelevant questions. He couldn't help but think of the inheritance system that existed in ancient times, passing it on to the eldest son. If Cole was the second oldest, then shouldn't he inherit the position of Sauter's leader? Gu Mengmeng felt a chill in her heart. She asked carefully, "Then, what about your eldest brother?" Leah nodded, as though he was praising Gu Mengmeng's sharp senses. But that forced smile was so pale and heart-wrenching. "Aside from the topic, when I have the money to buy a house, I must choose a place that is the furthest from the square. Sob sob sob, there are activities downstairs every day. Singing White Hair Girl 8 times a day. I don't want to live anymore." Chapter 408. He died from the backlash of the mating contract. Leah said calmly, but Gu Mengmeng could see the raging waves in his long and narrow eyes. "Did you have a good relationship with your big brother?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Leah thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, "I don't think we had a good relationship, but we were taught since young to be a pair of brothers who could complement each other, so we spent more time together." Gu Mengmeng did not understand. There were a total of 9 brothers. Why did the eldest and youngest have to be good brothers? Leah continued, "The eldest inherited the position of the leader, while the youngest inherited the position of the witch doctor. The arrival of the messenger of the beast deity was the right time, and being born in Sauter was the right place. As long as my big brother and I work well together to form the word, human harmony, Sauter should be able to climb to the peak again, and regain its former glory." Gu Mengmeng frowned. This ideal situation might be in line with everyone's interests, but it would definitely hurt the darkness in some people's hearts. As for who that person was, the answer was almost obvious. "So, Cole killed your big brother's partner?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Leah shook his head and said, "On the day my big brother died, his partner disappeared from this world. No one knew how she disappeared, and no one knew where she went after that. So, there is no evidence pointing to Cole as the culprit, but..." Leah did not continue, and Gu Mengmeng also remained silent for a moment, before continuing Lee's words. "But, because Cole is the one who has the biggest vested interest in this matter, so you suspect that he planned it?" Leah hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded his head and said, "You said before, being too perfect in itself, is a loophole." Gu Mengmeng vaguely remembered that she had said this before, but she had already forgotten why she said it. Just looking at Leah, Gu Mengmeng did not know what to do. To be honest, Cole did give off a feeling of alienation, but to say that he was so evil as to make use of his sister-in-law to kill his own brother, Gu Mengmeng felt that he was not that kind of person. Usually, one's face reflects one's heart, and those with evil intentions would always have some charm hanging on their faces. But Cole did not feel the slightest bit uncomfortable. Gu Mengmeng only knew bits and pieces of Li's past, so she could not judge how much of Li's memories were distorted due to hatred. She also did not want to make Leah sad by doubting him because of Cole. After deliberating for a long time, Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "Maybe it's a misunderstanding?" Leah was not angry, but just smiled faintly and said, "Yeah, maybe it's a misunderstanding." Gu Mengmeng could clearly feel Li's sensitivity. His words, which seemed like he was agreeing with her, contained too much disappointment and indescribable sadness. "It's not that I don't believe you," Gu Mengmeng explained. "It's me, I, and said, Gu, King, Gu said, Mengmeng, I said, me, Gu Mengmeng, I said. It was, I say, I. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.